Consequences are a white male privilege. And I don't mean this in a mocking or negative way. They literally are a privilege. So this is part of a series of things that I do where I take things that I post on social media, be it Facebook as an image macros with text, or on Twitter, things like that. When you're on that platform, you have a limitation in characters, so it gets you to kind of put your ideas into a short, concise thing, but sometimes it can benefit from expanding on, and that's what I do in this series. So with this one, consequences are a white male privilege. Now, why am I saying this? What do I mean by this? In general, consequences have a negative connotation to them, something unwelcome or unpleasant. But it is a result of certain actions. It is a result of something. And then if you personally have to face those consequences, it is going to change how you actually behave. There's another use of the word where it says, okay, somebody's past is of no consequence. It's not important to think about that person's past. When you do it in that kind of sense, it's because you're saying that past is worthless. That past has no point. That past has no effect. And if you're in that situation, you're putting that as something that is not important. Now, if your past isn't important, then your past behavior doesn't really have anything to do with your current behavior, with your future behavior. You don't have to look back into your past and say, what was I doing wrong back then, and now I have to change it today? If you say white male's past is of consequence, yet all the other past of all other people is of no consequence, then the white males are going to be the ones who have more impetus to actually change what they're doing and look back and say, okay, if we did that wrong, then now we should change it to this. They can look back in the past and say, okay, those things that we were doing, they may have been some negative situations, but what are the positive things from that that we can refine and keep doing? But if you just discard somebody's past, if you discard your own past, then you can keep making the same mistakes. You don't really have that same ability to actually change what you're doing for the better. Now, another part of it, if you are not going to suffer consequences for your actions, think about this. If you're playing a video game and there's a God mode and you have unlimited lives, there's nothing on the line, you'll play it in an entirely different way than if you have one life left. If you're down to the end where it's like, okay, there's a certain time limit in what you can do in these situations. There's consequences for your actions. Maybe there's a lot of money on the line in this game. You're going to approach that game in a different way. You're going to plan more. You're going to look around the area. You're going to be like, okay, I can do this move. You're going to learn the moves of the game. You're going to learn the rules. You're going to try to find little shortcuts and little ways to actually benefit how you play that game, because you're not just doing it just for the hell of it. There's actual consequences to the actions that you do. So, if you have a situation where only one group in society actually has consequences for their behavior, they're going to behave in an entirely different way than majority of the people in that same place, the people who are not held for consequences. We all know this to an extent. There's that whole situation we look at wealthy kids and say, oh, that kid has been spoiled. That kid hasn't actually had to actually have the actual consequences of his actions. So that kid behaves in a way that is very negative and is very not tied into what reality is. So we understand the negative effect of not having consequences, yet we seem to be doing this to great groups of society and removing consequences from them. In particular, from my experience, what I've seen this being done to is women in general, mostly white women in the United States of America, and black people in general in the United States of America. They take away agency, they take away consequences from these things, and only focus on the consequences that they suffer that are due to white men, not that they have actually imposed on themselves or have from a lack of awareness of actual consequences of certain actions and behaviors. So that's it for now. Like, share, and subscribe if you haven't. Subscribe and you can get more content like this. The consequences of you missing these out, I don't know. I guess only if you're a white male. If you're a white male, there'll be consequences for you not sharing and liking and subscribing. Everybody else, no consequences. Goodbye.